On the agenda tonight, we're going to be having a listen to Freddie Mercury singing the Fairy Fella's Masterstroke back in 1974. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So, I can't believe we're back here again so soon looking at Freddie Mercury, given the auto-tune video that I did where I intentionally auto-tuned his voice just to show what it would sound like to compare with his natural voice, and I said on that video that it was sacrilege. And the reason that I'm doing this video tonight so soon is because I can hardly believe that this is happening, but on the official Queen YouTube channel, there are auto-tuned vocals of Freddie Mercury, believe it or not. So I was having a listen and I was linked to this in the comment section. Somebody said, I think they're auto-tuning Freddie's vocals and releasing it. So I checked it out and I thought initially that it was a joke, but it wasn't. It is the official Queen channel. So it's the Fairy Fella's Masterstroke, the live performance of it, but it has been auto-tuned and then released as the live version from 1974. So in this analysis video, we're going to be having a listen to the isolated vocal of the original album version, bearing in mind that in the studio, you have a lot more time to perfect your vocal, to get it as spot on as possible, and you can do multiple takes, all that kind of thing, but live, you only get one shot. So you would expect the album version to be a lot more accurate than a live version, especially with Freddie, the way that he ran around, put on the show live. So we'll take a look at the vocal waveforms and quickly, just to explain it, that there are going to be artifacts that remain from the extraction process from the original audio in order to get the isolated vocal. So take that into consideration when you hear the voice, that it's not going to be a perfectly matte finished vocal like you'd hear in the studio. But we will have a listen to this one first and then we'll play another one second and you guys can try and figure out which is which. Let's have a listen.
The fairy folk have gathered round the new moon shine to see the fella cracking at announcement time. To swing his axe to sway as he climbs, he dares to deliver Masterstroke.
So that is Exhibit A, our first version. Let's listen to this one.
Fairy folk have gathered round the new moon shine. See the fella cracking at announcement time. Axe to sway as he climbs, he dares to deliver.
And there we have it. So, the second one was the live auto-tuned version. So, congratulations if you got that right. And the studio version sounds a lot more pitchy, as it would do, because it hasn't been auto-tuned. But you can hear how Freddie's voice is going a little bit sharp, a little bit flat, but it's got all of that expression in there. It's so obvious, maybe you can hear it. This is the thing about auto-tune. You can just hear the artifacts of auto-tune on the voice, just the sound of it. But you might be able to tell that there's something weird about it, that the voice just doesn't flow like it does when it's left to just be natural, and hearing Freddie Mercury's natural voice just is so unique and so distinctive. When you then change it, it stands out like a sore thumb. But anyway, just quickly going through the waveforms of the auto-tune version, and I think what they've done on this is they've not auto-tuned everything to try and, I don't know why, but try and get away with using it without anybody noticing, but they've auto-tuned 95% of it. So it's really obvious, and they've left in a note here or there that is ever so slightly flat or ever so slightly sharp, but then just, yeah, applied it to everything else. But let's have a little look through. I mean, even just looking at the waveforms without the audio, straight away, this first vocal phrase, you can see how we've got the vibrato and the notes just sitting directly on that line. Here, the note goes up and the monitoring software does lose contact with the audio now and again because it's just using the microphone on my phone. This is just an Android app called Vocal Pitch Monitor, so you guys can download it if you want to. So it's free as well, but it does a great job, considering that it's free, of just mapping out these pitches, the vocal pitches that we're hearing. And here you can see that if this line was connected, we'd be right on the line. We're pretty much straight on the line here. We've gone down and up and on the line again. We start on the line, we then ascend. But you can see there's a lot of suspicious activity just in this first vocal phrase, with us hitting lines and just staying on lines. And here we go again, staying on the line. And here, just either side of the line, here a little dot on the line, and here, you know, everything's starting over the line. So when we go back to the actual audio in the studio, which you'd say would be more accurate than live, we can see straight off the bat that we're starting sharp of the line here. We do touch it just for a split second, but then we're sharp, we're then flat. We've got this little, looks like a rundown here. Let's have a little listen to the vocal to see what that was. Yeah, okay, I had both of the tracks playing there at the same time, but this is the studio waveforms we're looking at. Yeah, is that na 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 na? We've got a little vocal run in there, so this is why still we're sharp, we're flat, we're above the line. So we go down here, we start sharp, and then we descend through to the line. Let's now go down here. And what I will say is that Freddie was so accurate, just vocally in general with every note that he hit, especially in the studio, because he is in a controlled environment. He can practice beforehand, going into the studio, get all of these notes down, get the muscle memory, get his vocal cords to snap to these positions. He can control his airflow. You can do so many things in the studio when you're concentrating on putting down a good vocal that you can't do when you're singing live. So you'd expect this to be even more spot on than live. But as we progress, you can see here that Freddie was just flat of the line, but pretty much bang on. And here he's sharp, again sharp. Here again sharp and sharp and sharp and sharp. So he's just drifting above the note all the time. But this is when he's standing in front of a mic. So he's really focusing here. And here, I mean, look at this. This is a great indication of a natural voice. The way that here we are between notes. And the final note, we've ascended through the note, and then we've descended through the note as well. So let's have a little listen to that and see what it sounds like in real time. It just sounds like a straight note when you're listening to it and not looking at the waveforms. But you can see the waveforms, the way that he just goes sharp and then comes back. But let's just have a little look at that phrase here. Yeah, so there, he's just hit the note dead on. The auto-tune's attracting it to the G4. And even at the end, the auto-tune's just grabbed it at the end with the vibrato, just to end exactly on the G4. So we'll jump into the album version, listen to a little bit more, and then compare the waveforms again with the auto-tuned live version. Now men wagging the wheel and ties, politician with senatorial pride, and with the multiple vocals going on here, the harmony vocals, sometimes it is difficult for the pitch monitoring software to pick up on one individual pitch, because that's what it's designed to do. It's not designed to pick up lots of different voices, but even still, you can see that the voice that it is picking up is slightly sharp, and then a little bit flat, and then slightly sharp, and then now directly over the line descending, but that's the same note as previously. So that would be the G that was slightly sharp, but is picking that up. You can still see it's not directly on the lines. As we go down here to now isolate Freddie's vocal, he's slightly sharp of the D4 again. And we also have that glissando approach vocally when he goes na, and he slides na, up and down. That's what it's just a fancy term to describe that. But you can see when the lines go up and down, like right at the end here, when we go na, and all of those really smooth slides vocally descending with the note. You'll see is these long lines that descend. But anyway, looking at these waveforms, he is so, I mean, this is really accurate pitch-wise. I know it's not directly on the line because it's not auto-tuned, but he's pretty much bang on here, just slightly sharp and then slightly flat, and then vibrato around the E4. He then jumps up pretty much sharp again, halfway sharp, almost at the A sharp 4 or halfway to that. But then we're coming down again, nails that F4 and then comes down to the D4. Again, look at this, how accurate he is pitch-wise, just slightly sharp of that D4 and just touches it for a while. But this is why it sounds so good when you're listening to Freddie Mercury, because he's not being snapped to a note. When he's singing naturally, he's really close to pitch. So let's go back to the beginning of that section and we'll listen now to the auto-tuned live version.
Loud and awake in the will and tides, politician on his senatorial pipe.
And just to mention that I know it's not picking up the vocal really clearly, but what it is picking up, look at the E4, it's bang, bang. We're getting these little dots exactly on the note. That one's ever so slightly flat, but it might have been the fact that it was a little bit of vibrato that's gone sharp and flat, but we're just getting these dots. But look at the dots down here, D4, 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 D4. Is right on the line all the time, which as soon as you see anything like that, even though it's not picking it up very clearly, you can see that it is something's happening, something's getting involved to put the voice in this position. And again there, this is where we started right on the note and the vibrato went a little bit flat. Like I said, they've auto-tuned, it sounds like about 95% of it, but it's too obvious. There should be auto-tuning 50%, or with Freddie Mercury, they shouldn't be auto-tuning anything. But if they had to, if they really had to do this, and this is the official Queen channel, this is an official release by the record label. So somebody behind the desk has thought they would improve Freddie Mercury's vocal before releasing it. They've listened to the live version and thought, oh, I think I could do a better job with Freddie Mercury's vocal. Let me just put a little bit of auto-tune and pitch correction on it, and I'll do about 95% so nobody will notice. If they had to do it, I'd say use it maybe 10%, maybe 20%. If there was an obvious note here or there that was really bad, just use Melodyne or something just to sneak it up closer to the note. Just drag one edge of it closer to the note. Don't just butcher it like they have done here. It is almost like somebody having a masterpiece in front of themselves and then not even being an artist and going, oh, I'm just going to improve this a little bit before we put it on sale. It's madness to edit somebody's voice like Freddie Mercury, especially when you're not Freddie Mercury himself. And that brings up a whole nother discussion. Should the Freddie Mercury estate or Brian May or Roger Taylor or John Deacon, should they have been consulted first saying, do you mind if we change Freddie Mercury's voice in this live performance before we release it? Or have they just changed it and released it with nobody's consent to change Freddie Mercury's voice? Because that is what is happening. And we can hear that in the studio his voice is different to how they've now changed it to sound when he sang it live.
When your dog squinting wears a brown and the sun appears on the lady's gown. What a daddy laddie, oh. Again, look at this on the lines, on the lines. I think, sadly, they've done the same with the backing vocals. The backing vocals sound mechanical. They are so exact. There's no light and shade in there. So, yeah, really obvious. What I'll do, we won't listen to the whole thing because I think you guys are now getting the point that this, sadly, is auto-tuned, sacrilege as it is, but don't blame me, blame Queen's record label and the producers that have edited this before then releasing it as a live version on YouTube. I want to just store these waveforms in your head if we can, because then we'll flick to the auto-tune version and see how these waveforms differ. And even that, the subtle difference between going it's like he's putting on a different voice, like a child's voice, because of all the expression in there, and you can see the fact that he's gone a little bit sharp, but again, pretty much bang on when we're talking about being pitch perfect singing wise to the ear, just so accurate. What a query fellow.
And there, slightly sharp and coming down slightly sharp, and then again we have this drop off, this glissando decline in pitch from one note to the next. It might have actually just been a throwaway decrease in pitch in terms of going na, so there's no real end. Na, there's no end to that, like na, it's and wherever it ends is it doesn't matter. And where would be a good place to stop it? Probably about there. So then we can snap to the live, which should be theoretically less accurate. We'll flip over to the live. There we go. There are the auto-tune lines. So here, snap to the line, again, snapped over the line. But again, the 5% allowed just to sneak through. And this is borderline that, again, I think they've allowed it to not be on the D4, but the producer hasn't wanted to let it go any further. You can see that it is still. This might be a case of more pitch correction in that he's just flattened out the note. He or she has flattened out the note and not now dragged it over the top directly of the D4, but here straight over the D4 and here the A3. I mean, yeah, all of this here is effectively auto-tune, even though he might have been dragging them, he or she. I'm putting the blame at a guy's door here, so I'm probably giving women more credit in the studio for being able to be more subtle with things. So it's probably going to be the male of the species that is responsible for this, so apologies for that as a male myself. But having the waveforms directly over the line, it's so unsubtle. And let's just bring in the vocals again that were in the studio. So this is as accurate as it will get. Again, slightly sharp, but pretty much bang on, but still sharp and sharp. So as soon as you start seeing these lines directly over, you know it's auto-tune. So just to wrap up this video, I know that on the previous one I said that it was sacrilege to auto-tune Freddie's voice, and I didn't have any idea that they were doing it and that this existed. So just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, it has done. The only reason that I did that first video is because people were requesting it of me to auto-tune Freddie's voice. So having this out there now, in the comment section, let me know if they started releasing your favourite artists' songs from 1960, 1970, 1980 with auto-tune on the voice. Would you be happy with that? And would you be happy if they released live versions of their songs with auto-tune now applied to the vocal without telling you that that has been done? Because there is no indication on the Queen YouTube channel or on this track. It just says live 1974. They haven't said anywhere that they have auto-tuned the vocals. And this is the point of these videos on my channel at the moment, is to show people not only how deep this rabbit hole goes in the modern day industry with modern day artists since or even after 1998 with Cher and Believe, the fact that that was the first song that really used it heavily, but it was used artistically in that song. If you listen to it, it was used in the verse, and then in the chorus they went to more of Cher's natural voice. So it was used initially as an artistic change to the voice to give it a slightly different sound from the verse to the chorus. So when it then evolved into producers thinking, oh, we can now make bad singers sound better by auto-tuning their voice, that has somehow now morphed into even great singers, oh, we can make them sound even better by putting auto-tune on their voice, not realizing that it isn't how music works. The great singers are great singers because they are hitting pitches that are perfect to the ear, not perfect to all of the lines on a graph. Would you think that it devalued the art by changing it? I personally think that if you have any recordings of any live gigs, they should be preserved as they were, because that is an encapsulation of the time. You're hearing the exact audio that everybody heard on that particular night, whenever it was, back in 1974. That evening was unique, and this is the sound of that evening. But taking that evening and now changing it and repackaging it and releasing it again and saying this is their live performance, but it isn't how it sounded on the night, so we can't transport you back to that time. Unfortunately, it's not going to be what everyone was hearing on the night. For me, there is so much more art in hearing it exactly as it was, warts and all. If there were a few notes that were missed, that's the point. It's live. That's what people heard on the night. So for me, if they started auto-tuning Jimi Hendrix, for example, I'd probably lose it. Because for me, Jimi Hendrix didn't have an amazing voice. He was pitchy. He didn't hit notes dead on. But he knew that. That was the point of his art, that it sounded different because he wasn't constrained by his voice. He just sang his own way, and he was very self-conscious about it, but it was allowed to be. And that's what art is all about. Just let the artist do what they do and then appreciate it. And don't change it when you're... Nobody should be allowed to change it, first of all, apart from maybe Freddie Mercury. But don't let anybody change what the source audio is. Of course, you can put reverb on it. You can put delay. If Brian May wants chorus on his guitar, you can do that. But it's like taking Brian May's solo and converting it to MIDI and now dragging his notes up and down. Brian May would say, I didn't play it like that on the night. Leave it how I played it. I guarantee you he would say that. He wouldn't want his guitar solos pitch corrected and perfected and auto-tuned. He'd want the expression exactly as it was on the night. And that's what auto-tune is doing. It's over-analyzing these notes. And I'm now having to analyze it so you guys can see it. Unfortunately for producers and a lot of you actually in the comment section, we can hear auto-tune, so that's the problem. It's ruining these live performances. Say, for example, you wanted to listen to Queen back in 1974 and you think, oh, I'm really in the mood just to get into a live performance and just listen to their set from beginning to end and just lose myself in the audio from 1974. You press play and the first thing you hear is auto-tune. It's ruined it. You can't listen to it anymore because you know that it's now a computer changing Freddie Mercury's voice. So that is my opinion. I don't agree with it at all. I think it's ridiculous to be auto-tuning stuff from so long ago, from 1974. But let me know what you guys think. As always, I guess the question is, because they can auto-tune vocals now, should they auto-tune vocals? That is the question. As I said, let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys for letting me know that this has happened, as depressing as it is. Keep those suggestions coming in the comments below about any other artists or videos that you want checked out from an auto-tune perspective or to have analysed from the pitch monitoring perspective. Thank you for all of the thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!